advertising deal with the Trop, and like we haven't heard from what we're gonna do or how we're gonna figure this out at Sternberg. Now apparently everything's okay now. They're working it out, but like that's it's funny, right? Like the city's tourism agency is advertising with the Rays, and like the Rays aren't even giving them clarity on like how they're gonna work
So
them out with and I get it, they've got a lot going on, but it's like
wait,
it's the county's tourism agency.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
we know you enjoyed our first part with friend of the pod, Colleen Wright, Tampa Bay Times reporter. And here we have part 2 with her, and we hope you enjoy it. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins.
Weird spot.
So I want to go back to something else that we talked about earlier. Somebody in the comments said on an episode that we did recently that the Rays legally had to say that they were covering the cost overruns in order to get the $600 million in bonds. Can you verify if that's true? Would you happen to know if that's how it goes?
Oh yeah, the Rays, that was part of the deal. That was like one of the things in the deal that most people were like, oh, well, at least they're doing that, is like the Rays, yes, the Rays agreed to cover all cost
No.
overruns.
I know that, but I'm just saying, like, they had to do that in order to get the $600 million, or could they have not put that in the contract and still get the $600 million?
I don't know how that came to be in the negotiating process, but that was just like in general, like for the next 30 years, the Rays lines were on the hook for all cost overruns.
Right. Okay.
So it wasn't like they do this and then they get that. It wasn't a condition of getting the bond.
Gotcha.
If that's what you're asking. No. But no, that was for the next 30 years. That was the whole thing, is that they were signing up for like, okay, no matter what, the next 30 years, here you go. And actually one of the city council members, Richie Floyd, very much against the deal, he's a Democratic Socialist on council, was like, I don't like that. He didn't like that part of the deal because he thought at any point, kind of like what happened, which is like at any point they could just be like, actually we can't afford it, and like who's going to have to bail them out, or the project will come to a standstill. So he, I think, actually put on X back when the Rays were first maybe backing out in November, saying like, I can't believe how quickly I was proven correct, and he's right.
It only took the first wrinkle of cost overruns for the Rays to say, you know what, peace, we're out.
Yeah, and you know, Mayor Welch actually kind of brought that up at his news conference. You know, there's been so many horrible metaphors of like a marriage and engagement, you know, wedding, a relationship, whatever. And he was like, you know, it's better that we got out now than like if we had gone forward and this would have happened this year. Because like we've talked about this on the show, that like, you know, this is because of 2 hurricanes and an election, and like that kind of started this series of unfortunate events. I almost spit my drink when I saw like that Stu Sternberg wrote like due to a series of events in October. He put that in his statement on X.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened, right? If none of that happened, let's just pretend everything went fine, there were no hurricanes, they agreed, yes, but everything that happened this year happened next year.
Okay.
Now you're locked in. So now what? Now you're locked into a deal, and I think the only way you could the city or the county could have terminated after that was like if the stadium wasn't built by 2030. So now you've got 5 years and you're locked in. That was like the next trigger clause was like 2030 if the stadium wasn't built by 2030. So in that sense, you dodged a bullet. I don't know why you agree to a deal if you're not serious, unless you wanted an out, you know, or
Right.
you weren't serious, or you just tried to make it work. I don't know. I'm not the Rays. I can't really guess, but no, I mean, that was part of the deal. But no, it was not a condition of getting the bonds.
Thank you. That's what because somebody said that on the comments. I was like, I don't think that's a conditional, but
No, the conditions were like, you got to show that you have $700 million handy, like liquid, It was a bunch. It was like 12 or 13 things, but they had a show that they were like 50% done on design documents, that they had spent like X amount of money, they had spent like X amount of work, that they pulled permits. These are not things that can like happen overnight. Like
Right.
half the people in St. Pete don't even have permits for their homes
Mm-hmm.
that have for a storm that happened 6 months ago, and now you're gonna pull them for a development. I'm sure they would fast track that, but like these are just like basic simple things, not simple I guess, but just things you would have to do to show you were serious about carrying on a deal. They had only met like I think like 2 of the 12. Nothing. They were behind. And then they say like, oh, we spent $50 million in costs, but then like what they showed was like, I
11.
reported it, I can't remember.
I think it
It
was
was like
11
11.
million.
Yeah, it was like so much less. And yes, that was like an old figure, but like
50 is not
I don't know.
11, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you had said 40, okay. I mean, I
Right.
don't know, and maybe they did, but they never proved it, and that was a condition of getting the bonds
Gotcha.
or accessing the money that the bonds would make possible.
So if St. Petersburg agrees to throw millions of dollars into repairing the Trop to make it ready by 2026 sometime, let's say, is there any wiggle room to say, hey, we put all this money into this facility only to be demolished? Let's add another couple years extension until things are worked out for a new ownership group or whatever happens with where the Rays are going to play in the future. I mean, is that something that you think might be bandied about at some point?
I'm sure they're going to discuss that.
Mm-hmm.
I am sure they're going to discuss on the 27th. I did a story on like all the other events that are held at the Trop. Almost every single high school graduation in Pinellas County is held at the Trop. It's a good venue. It's right. It's air conditioned, there's parking, you could bring anybody you want. I mean, it's massive, right? You can have, concerts, events, graduations. They had like apparently like the biggest gymnastics meet in the United States was like at the
Wow.
Trop. And it was like international. It was like 13,000 gymnasts or something crazy. And like they all come. I mean, there's home expos, boat shows, like things that stimulate the local economy that aren't there anymore. And that's a big deal. And like even Visit St. Pete Clearwater is the county like tourism agency, right? They promote tourism in Pinellas County.
Mm-hmm.
They have an advertising deal with the Rays. And I actually reported that their marketing director wrote like a pretty like stern, try not to say nasty because it wasn't nasty, but like he was pretty angry saying like, how come I haven't heard from you guys? Like we have like a $500,000, I forget how much it was, 300,000, it was a 6-figure deal, advertising deal with the Trop, and like we haven't heard from what we're gonna do or how we're gonna figure this out at Sternberg. Now apparently everything's okay now. They're working it out, but like that's it's funny, right? Like the city's tourism agency is advertising with the Rays, and like the Rays aren't even giving them clarity on like how they're gonna work them out with and I get it, they've got a lot going on, but it's like,
wait,
it's the county's tourism agency.
So let me get this straight. The Rays do not communicate to the commission that they're going to be playing at Steinbrenner until 30 minutes before the news goes nationwide. They don't communicate throughout the 49-day delay, and they do not communicate with Visit St. Pete Clearwater people. I'm connecting dots, and it's one common denominator here. It's not great.
Yeah. And of course the people who are talking with like the county's marketing people, right, Visit St. Pete Clearwater, like it's not Brian Auld, but it's like the Rays advertising department. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So different people, but same organization. Yes.
Right.
And again, like to be totally fair, their business was very much interrupted. Their offices
True.
are gone. I can relate. Our offices are gone because of a crane. So I understand the interruption. But yeah, it's just all over. It's been tough. Yeah. The communication has been a theme.
Yeah. Speaking of that, let's say we have a pie chart and we're leveling percentage of blame to each party. The Rays are part of that pie chart. The county is part of the pie chart, and the city is part of the pie chart. how would you divvy that up in terms of, the Rays are 90% to blame for the stadium deal falling through, and the city and county are 5%? Or do you kind of have you given that any thought of like who's really mostly to blame in all this?
I mean, people can take the information and come up with their whole thing. I won't really give my opinion on that. I feel like that's wading a little bit into opinion territory, but
Okay.
I will say that the city and the county approved their bonds. Like, they did the deal. And yes, it was 2 months, 49 days delayed.
Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and much, much more. Experts are ready to help you take your business to the next level. Perhaps you got a startup idea and you're like, I can do something with this, but I need some help. Well, guess what? Upwork can find the right talent for you. They have fast and easy hiring. You can just post a job. It's really free and simple. And within a day, multiple qualified candidates to choose from all around the globe. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. So today, visit upwork.com right now and post your job for free. Super simple. And best of all, for free. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. The time is here, March Madness, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never ever before. Right now, new customers have a tremendous opportunity for a tremendous deal. You can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's right, you can turn a $5 bet winning into $200 in bonus bets, and you can use it on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even on who's cutting down the nets. It's so easy and fast. You get into the FanDuel app, it's like it knows what you're thinking. It's super easy to use and you get paid instantly. There's no waiting around, which is probably the best thing that you want to hear. So today, go to FanDuel.com, visit FanDuel.com, both of those work, and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long.
You can say, and there are people who believe that like the city and the county should pitch in, that it's not solely the Rays' fault. And who am I to say that they're wrong? But this was a deal. So, what I did today for work is I put together a literal timeline of every single event that has happened between summer 2022, when Ken Welch restarted the bids for redeveloping Tropicana Field, scrapped him from Kreisman, the guy before him, and started over from every event from that summer of 2022 to last week. And the story is maybe one of the longest. It's like, in journalism speak, it is like 65 inches. Like, it's very long. A lot of things have happened. That's why I'm outside, to get a breath of air, because I've been doing a timeline of the past 3 years for 7 hours. And it's wild to see it all come together. But the most wild part about it was I used some of these quotes that people were making at the time. And in fact, I'll read one of these to you. On September 19th, 2023. Hang on. Okay, September 19th, 2023. That was the day that was the Here to Stay logo. And right, the Rays say they have the broad outlines of a deal, right? 1.3 billion, 700 million for the Rays. County and city split the other 600 million. Matt Silverman says, "This is something that's a dream come true for us."
Oh God.
So this
What
is
happened?
the deal that they wanted, right? In theory, at least, I guess, they had been pressing everybody to get done, whatever. And the notion of like, well, everybody knew, the county commission knew that these votes had to take place before the election. That's not in the contract.
It's not.
That's not in the contract. This is I've said this, I believe, on the show, that like this is a 30-year build out. The people who are putting this together might not be here by the time it's done, and they certainly won't be carrying it out 20 years from now. They're not going to be the ones in charge. People will live and die by what's in writing. And at one point, a deadline for these bonds was in the agreement and then got taken out, or what was a bargaining chip, or I don't know what happened to it, but it didn't make it. So nobody thought it was imperative enough to have it in there, so it wasn't in there.
Exactly.
And from what I've gathered, a lot of people see it that way, of this is an agreement, you signed an agreement. Now, if the city and the county hadn't approved their bonds, they would be very much, I would say, equally getting wrath.
Mm-hmm.
Some people still do. Some people still think that, for example, where are the Rays going to play at Sambrano? Why is that relevant to the current deal? You could argue it kind of isn't, right? This idea of like, well, tourism dollars are funding the new stadium, therefore, if they play out of the county, those tours. I mean, okay, that's the argument Ballot made, but really, it kind of has no bearing, right? So you could see it that way, but at the end of the day, the city and the county did do what they had to do.
Yep.
Right after 2 hurricanes that brought this place to its knees. Two of the city's 3 sewage plants got shut off. People didn't have toilets for like 2 days. I don't know. It's really uncharted territory, but there was a deal. City and county agreed, and the Rays did not. And that's it.
I want to kind of get a little bit of a peek behind the curtain there with the article that you're writing. Is it just research background? Is it something that you're gonna be publishing soon? Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, it'll be publishing soon. It's all stuff. It's like my greatest hits. It's all stuff you guys have seen, just in a format that I feel like people will be able to look back and reference and show, and you can see through the quotes how just the relations just tanked. Like from what they were saying about each other to what they're now saying. It's like wild. That's a bee. A bee just flew in front of me. That's so scary. Just right by my head, right there. But yeah, so you'll see it soon. We have a lot of coverage coming out, kind of exploring all different angles. What's going on with the Trop roof? What's going on with insurance? Why did the Rays back out? Is it because insurance is such a problem? Because under this new agreement, right, the Rays, in exchange for keeping like all naming rights and broadcasting rights and ticket revenues and all the money they were going to make, they would have to take on insurance. But I guess maybe that would have been enough, because Matt Silverman said on WDAE last week that he mentioned he mentioned insurance as an issue. The insurance costs were really, really high. So we've got a lot coming out, but yeah, mine is kind of like the master timeline of how a stadium deal devolves in like a spectacular fashion, and how it went from like people are like, this is never going to work out, to like, oh wow, this is going to work out, this is actually happening, this is really a thing, to oh wow, it's really not working out, to like it's not, it's over. And the past 3 years were kind of for nothing.
Yeah.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown. Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup. Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free. It's your team every day.
One large question, well, a couple of large questions are, when is Stu going to sell the team? Who's the new ownership group going to be? But I'm really curious to see, like, fast forwarding 5, 10, 15 years from now, where are the Rays playing? Are they back in St. Petersburg? Are they in Tampa? Are they in Orlando? Are they in Nashville? Where are they? Do you have a gauge as to where the Rays are going to be years and years from now, or that's all contingent on if Stu continues to own the team or if he's forced to sell the team to somebody? The crystal ball approach.
My crystal ball. No, honestly, it's just totally speculation. So we know for a fact that they can't play anywhere or talk to anybody about playing anywhere between now and 2028 because they're still locked into the current 1995 agreement. So we know that. What happens beyond 2028 is anybody's guess. Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, seems to really maybe want to keep him in Tampa Bay and make something work out here. Does Tampa Bay mean Orlando? That would seem disingenuous to me, but like maybe that's a real thing. I don't know. Are the Orlando people legit? Not sure. There's not really the public financing there. As we can see, it's kind of hard to put one of these deals together. They kind of don't come through together overnight. Is someone buying the Rays? I don't know, because Stu swears they're not for sale. Silverman swears they're not for sale. I've been told, look at what the Orioles sold for, and that was like 1.8 billion or something. The Lightning also sold for like a lot, and I think they maybe, if you're, nothing's for sale until someone says a number high enough.
Yeah.
I would imagine, right? Like,
well, there was already an offer, right? A few years back.
There's been untold, who knows, and like, how big are these offers? Are they verbal? Are they real? Like, how far do they go? You got to be approved by MLB. It's a whole thing. I will say that I had a really fascinating interview. One of the coolest things I love about my job is I just get to talk to people all day long and pick their brain. And I had an interview with a sports attorney from New York, and he's been like an NFL agent. He's like represented groups trying to relocate, and he's represented buying groups for like the Buffalo Bills, and I forgot, was it the Jags? There was like another group, but he's been involved in buying groups. And so one of the things we talked about was like the people who are really serious, like really, really, really serious about buying a professional sports team are not calling the local newspaper and telling them that. And that's not for me to discourage people to not talk to me. Please do. But like, these are billionaires who like, they're getting the deal done. They're not like calling the paper. They're like actually talking to like a small circle of like bankers and like lawyers and the league and getting in there. You know what I mean? So he did say the reason why some of these groups are maybe going public is because maybe they've got some kind of challenge that would maybe stop them from being approved, and like maybe they need the publicity and it will show that they really, really care. Because this is fascinating. Major League Baseball, NFL has like apparently very tight restrictions when it comes to owners. That's why a lot of the owners in the NFL are like families, right? But in the MLB, they allow like corporate partnerships. They allow like a bunch of different combinations of buyers, which is really cool. But apparently what the owners look for is apparently like a team player, like someone who's not going to dominate the league, like a George Steinbrenner type. But someone who's going to like play ball and have good like share rep, not soak up all the resources or try to like, like be a hanger on or, be someone who's trying to like overtake everybody. Kind of like a personality fit, like a personality hire. So that was kind of interesting. And I asked, of course, like, well, how much money do you need to have? Like, what kind of financial background do you need for a team? And he was kind of like, because there's so many different combinations that MLB will accept, there's no like perfect buyer, but you do got to have money, liquid and ready.
Right.
And in this case, it would probably help if you've got some real estate experience because you need a stadium, because that is just an unknown, and apparently that has devalued the team, like not having like a for sure stadium space. Does the redevelopment help? I think Ulises, I think you mentioned this earlier. Yes. But because it still wasn't figured out, that's a caveat.
Good stuff. Great insight. Colleen, you have been a pleasure to speak with. Always are a pleasure to speak with. I know it's one of listeners' favorite episodes and one of our favorite episodes is having you on and spitting knowledge, things that we don't have time to dive into. We just read your articles and go from there, and you do a great job. You're an award-winning reporter, and we also want to give you the floor to plug your work and how people can find you, get in contact with you, and check out what you have offering.
Thank you. Yes, please. Appreciate everyone reading and listening in. If you can, please subscribe to the Times so I can keep doing what I'm doing and paying the bills. So really appreciate your, subscription, and thanks for having me as always. It's always good to be back.